Hello to the good people and to the bad. Bad people need love too.
When it comes to positivity, we all need it.
Great about people whose names are familiar to us now, like Isaiah Thomas.
Those things always work when it comes to putting out your best self.
God has blessed you with a beautiful voice, Chris. Thank you very much for doing this.
Good afternoon to the good people. Good afternoon to the bad people, friends and enemies. And good afternoon, boom, shakalaka to you all. I am Chris Bass. You're connected to CBI. We congregate every Wednesday. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, wanting you to be well where you are. I always get a couple of people asking me, why the bad people? Well, because they exist. As far as I know, they need love too. I mean, put it like this: if we put our arms around certain bad people, they might turn out to be good people. Might. But watch your step because they're bad. Let's get into my guest. My guest is a Democratic candidate for the Illinois 2nd Congressional District. It is more than my honor to welcome to CBI-Chris Bass Interviews, Eric France. How you doing, Eric? And thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm doing well, Chris. My Bronco brother. Good to see
you. Yeah, man. You know, like I said before, when you can find a Bronco anywhere, pretty much. No offense to other high schools, but yeah, we're everywhere. We're everywhere, pretty much. And it's always nice to reconnect. How's your afternoon going?
Busy, but that's what it's going to be.
Well, first of all, I was going through the your Facebook page, the Citizens to Elect Eric France, and I caught some of the footage of you in the July 4th parade in Hyde Park on 53rd Street. First of all, whoever designed those Elect Eric France umbrellas, that was pretty sweet because it was kind of rainy outside and everything else, and that was pretty cool. First of all, how was that event, and who invented the idea for the umbrellas?
Well, I'll give it to my head of branding and merchandising, my wife, Tanya Brown France, who comes up with all the great ideas and executes well every day. In terms of the energy at the parade, it was phenomenal. I know we were in the rain, but it was like it was sunshine all day. It was good to meet and greet the people, see people I haven't seen in a while, and make some new friends. But it was a great day. We all had fun.
Well, you know, the great thing about neighborhoods and communities, the older we get, they kind of stay the same. You know, housing involved, that other businesses come in and kind of build up, obviously, the community, but the flavor of the people still stay the same. It stays like a bedrock, so to speak. And like, for example, when it's sad because it moved, but for example, the silver, the block parties, those were great. And like you said before, you run into people you haven't ran into like in a long time. So the Silver Room Block Party, that's what we think. And so even though we're far apart, we'll always find our way back to each other.
Absolutely. We need things like that to bring us together. Just remember for the lighter moments. And that's what's going to get us ready for the heavy stuff. So we can't just always show up in a fight. We got to show up every day.
Every day of the week. Let me go to the peanut section, the comment section before we get in the comments here. I'll say good afternoon to Barbara Jean. It's a Wednesday afternoon greetings. Thank you, Barbara Jean. On my YouTube channel, the Chris Bass channel, all one word. That's a period at the end of the channel. She's on that. Also on Facebook Live. You're checking them out there as well. Good afternoon to my good friend, Innova Ingram. How you doing, Innova? Thank you for being here as well. Let's see. Also, she says, good afternoon to you, Mr. France.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here.
Let's see. Charles Smoot, offense taken. Yeah, well, he attended Whitney Young, so I'm not going to get into it too much about Dolphins, unless you want to take a swipe real quick, Eric.
I like Dolphins, but I love Broncos.
Thank you. There you go. It's just that simple. So your background, of course, going to Kenwood. Tell us some more about yourself. So, long life Chicagoan?
Long life Chicagoan. I've been other places, but this has always been home. Where do I start? Growing up in Hyde Park, right in the center of everything. went to Shoesmith and Lewisworth. I won't call it Cantor. It's still Lewisworth to me. And then Kenwood. Been rooted in that community forever. Lived between South Shore, High Park, and even did a little time in Chatham. I love my city. I love my state. What can I say?
It's a wonderful thing when you have connection to, again, neighborhoods and communities, and because some people don't have that. Some people are disconnected from that. What makes your connectability to the neighborhoods you mentioned about Hyde Park and South Shore and Chatham? Why is that so important?
Well, you know, I think it goes deeper than that. When it starts with Chicago and me and family, I mean, my father was very big in the community for many years and served every mayor from Daly to Daly and everyone in between. So I've kind of grown up in the public. I've seen and met a lot of people over the years. I have people who come up to me and hug me out of nowhere saying, I remember when you were a little boy and you were out in this parade, or you were at this event, or your father was great enough to help me out. And, you know, we grew up in a life of public service and giving back. So it's kind of hard for me not to. It's kind of hard for me not to be sensitive to the plight of others and what's going on and have the best interest of taking care of home first.
And speaking of home, you mentioned about your father, Dr. Irwin A. France. So tell us more about him for people who may not be familiar with his legacy.
Oh my goodness! Well, I'll tell you the short version of the long story.
Sure, go right ahead.
My father is originally from St. Louis, Missouri. He came to college after having integrated his high school, being the first Black student to graduate from Clayton High School in Missouri. And I guess that would have been about 1955. Came to Chicago to go to what was then known as George Williams College that sat in the middle of Hyde Park to train to become a YMCA secretary. They put him on a train in Union Station in St. Louis. He got off at 63rd and Dorchester with $7 in his pocket. That having been said, when he got off the train, he didn't know where he was going, didn't know anybody, and didn't know if he had enough money to get there. And when he finally made it to the school, they acted like they wasn't expecting him and wasn't happy that he was there. That having been said, he finished the program there, graduated, and was ready to go to work as a YMCA secretary, which he had been trained to be. Except at that particular time, he couldn't be because there were no jobs for Blacks in Black YMCAs. And that was the only place you could work.
Why is it important to know our history?
So that you don't repeat it, because history is notorious for repeating itself. So if you know about your past, you're less likely to suffer the same fault over and over again.
You mentioned about your dad serving from daily to daily when it came to being like the fixer for these mayors over 20 years. How did he get that job?
Well, you kind of get watched and plugged into it. When he didn't get the job as a YMCA secretary, he had a couple of state jobs, running the State Department of Employment Security and the youth branch and the Job Corps and so forth. And Richard J. Daley, the old man, handpicked my father to come be his administrative aide and run what was then known as the Model Cities Program, or the anti-poverty programs. Where we trained people in the communities. We built resources where they didn't exist. What you probably now know that of is the Department of Human Services, the Mayor's Office of Special Events, the Department of Aging, the Department of Housing, and several other things. There's never been a super department like that since. But he tapped him to come in and run that department. And he touched a lot of people and helped a lot of people. If you're driving through the neighborhood still where they exist and you see things like at 43rd and King Drive, the community centers, the King Community Center, and there's a Garfield one on the west side, and there's one in Woodlawn. There are quite a few of them.
Yes.
Those are part of his legacy that he left behind, bringing the services right back in the community. Because prior to that, there were none. You'd go downtown, you'd stand in line, or you'd stand in line at County Hospital. That was it. There was nothing for the people.
When it comes to legacy, when our parents paved the way, we had the option as the children either to follow the footsteps or put on our own shoes and create our own footsteps within that legacy and create our own, or we go into a different direction. So in your position, why did you choose to continue public servancy like your dad did, but you could have obviously went another direction?
Well, full disclosure, for the last, I lost count of the number of years, I've been in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been on the public payroll. I've worked as a consultant in public situations, but I've never been on the public payroll. That's not how I earned my stripes. And to say I went in another direction, let's just say this. I was pulled in the direction all the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I had my first job when I was a kid in middle school at Lewisworth. And that's when I started building my first housing development. So you have experiences like that. You start learning the business young, and you take that forward. I worked side by side with my father in business for many years until his death, and then continued his legacy of doing so with my brother.
What criteria / DNA does it take for a person to be a public servant?
So it's what I'm trying to instill on people today. People do a lot of talking, a whole lot of talking, as you know.
Yes.
But you got to be a great listener.
Mm.
Because if you're showing up to solve everybody's problems and you've done everything but ask them what their real problems are and listen and understand them, you're never going to solve them. And that's what we seem to have today. Everybody telling us what we need versus our leaders asking, where are you hurting? How are you hurting? What would make your life better? How can I help?
Mm.
It's not universal. There's no universal message across this country. We all have our own local issues and pieces of that level, and we can't forget that. What's happening in Chicago and Illinois may not be what's happening in Indiana. So we got to take care of home, especially when we go to Washington and we're making the case to bring back federal dollars. One of the biggest issues in Chicago for years and still remains is affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
People can't afford to live in Chicago or its surrounding area. So who's building affordable housing? Who's got a 5-year plan to show you how to build a community and get economic development and bring in business, which brings jobs, which people who need jobs are going to need affordable housing also, in addition to the ones that already need it.
Well, with the current administration, and we'll get in deeper dive as we go along, obviously, but we can touch upon it now. The current administration ran by 47. People should and are scared. Everything is tariff, everything is taxed up to the point where if you're trying to get a car or you're trying to have affordable housing, it's skyrocketed through the roof. And so it seems as though the middle class is being eradicated to a degree.
It's always been that way. I mean, I think we're in the same age bracket. We've been through Reaganomics before. We know what this looks like.
Okay.
And I'm just going to say this. When I bought my first car, I paid 12.5% interest.
Mm.
And that was considered a good rate.
Right.
Interest on houses back then wasn't much better. We're way better off than what we were, but we shouldn't be where we are now.
No, of course not.
Bottom line is it's about responsible spending and responsible management and being responsible about what we have in our communities to bring it back. That's if we had some businesses, we'd have some more choices, but we don't have any business development going on.
No, we don't.
Keep forgetting the biggest employer in this country is small business. You can't lose sight of that. So as these big companies go out of business and there's combining and consolidation, if we don't figure out what our main thoroughfares are so that we can shop, do business, and live well in our communities,
yes,
we're going under. We're going under. I'll take you down a few streets in memory lane. Do you remember when you could go down 71st Street and you can find boutique shoes from Joseph's and iMagnum and Evans Spurs and all the rest? And you can go down 87th Street and find something similar. And you can go down 75th Street and find something in parts of 76. Now what can you find? Blight, bottom out, disinvestment, lack of investment in new businesses, no support for businesses coming in. That's what we need from Washington, is we need people to help us rebuild our communities. That's what we need. I mean, Trump, we're going to do what we need to do. He's going to be gone, period. That's not the argument. The argument is, what have you been doing prior to now to take care of home, and what are you going to do? What's your plan look like? People
Again, let's go into the comment section. I'm sorry, go ahead, repeat that, sir.
People must take care of home.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Let's see real quick. Go back to the comment section. Good afternoon, Lydia Davis Edie. So it's great history sharing. Thank you so much. Definitely trying to get that out there. Good afternoon, Omar. Thank you for being here as well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to one Sick Diggy. How you doing, Sick? My man Sick is coming out from Norway. So I'm always glad to have him chime in, and everybody else as well. Thank you, Sick, for taking the time out to do this. You said before about certain streets back in the day, 79th Street. And I grew up on the south side on 79th Street. 79th was a bustling street. It really was.
You saw a business on 79th Street.
Oh, my God. Especially Sears.
Yes.
But everybody went to Sears. Yes. I mean, it was like pre-Walmart, if you think about it.
It was better than Walmart. They had fresh popcorn.
Don't get me started. And the ices.
That's right.
Yep.
Forget about going there to get tough skins and underwear. We were going for the popcorn and the ices.
Look, Doc, as soon as we got to the door, the waffling smell of popcorn led my noses straight to it. I was like, man, some money, please. And get it in the orange box.
That's
the orange color box and Sears, everything, whatever the decal was on it. Fresh popcorn. You also had, fruits and nuts and other types of delights and everything else, candies and everything else. It was just a great place, and it was an all-stop place because years later, because my parents did it, my grandparents did it. When I was driving, I went to their garage, for their mechanics, for their work, get the die-hard batteries and things like that. So these memories that we all have, it was right there in our neighborhood. We didn't have to go out a lot. It was right there, and nowadays it's just dead space.
That's it. It's blight, and it's disgusting. If no one else has said it, I'll say it. It's disgusting. It disgusts me to drive down these streets and see no attention being paid. And all we're talking about is what we're investing in foreign wars, what we need to do to Donald Trump, and what we need to do at home, whether it's in the city of Chicago and this district that we're talking about. We go halfway downstate, right above Champaign and Rantoul, Illinois, and Danville. They're not doing well either. Their economies are shot, and with this big, beautiful bundling bill that has now become law, it's going to hurt even more. These farmers can't farm. There's no more food assistance program and SNAPs. Right. There's nothing for them to do. They're now going to lose health care, like a lot of us here are going to lose it. They're going to even be more victimized by it because most farmers don't have private health insurance. They're dependent on Medicaid and Medicare.
Once the current administration going through Medicaid and Medicare, she might learn like shit goes through a goose, and that's going through, and to the point where we don't have anything. Like you said before, when you look at them gutting out, for example, affordable health care. You say what you want about President Obama with certain people. He got that done. That's his legacy. They want to call it Obamacare, we don't call it, but the Affordable Health Care Act saved a lot of people. So you had a situation where you gutted out for the fact of billionaires and rich millionaires having a tax break because of it. It's just the damnness of shame. It really is.
This is the way that we gave money back and took from the poor and left them poor still. Right. My point is, it should never get to that point. And part of that, to the extent that we undervoted, when we have 20% of an electorate coming out and the other 80% are at home and not involved and not engaged, we've got to do better too.
Yes.
Those people actually elected the president by taking themselves out of the process. Those of us who showed up, we did what we did, but those who stayed home really made the decision.
Where did you go to college at?
I am a proud student from Eastern Illinois University and Loyola. Go Ramblers.
I hear you. What was your major when you was there?
I majored in business administration and communications.
To look at from where you were in college to where you are now, to date, what would you say would be your finest accomplishments?
My finest accomplishments would be learning the lessons that my parents taught me. I learned more with them than I ever did in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say that, being very honest, I have a master's in Loretta and a PhD in Irwin. Those are two most important degrees that I have that guide me and lead me to do the right thing every day. That having been said, I've done many things, like fought for rights of victims of domestic violence and put that on the world stage, touring with victims around the world on that. That's very satisfying work. Being a consultant to Anheuser-Busch for about 30 years, I've spent money in the communities and brought back corporate dollars for programs like education, Budweiser Jamming for education, and the Lou Rawls Parade of Stars and things of that nature. I brought back dollars to every level of the community in terms of housing. I built, or companies I've been associated with have built more than 2,000 units of affordable housing just in the Chicago area alone.
Yes.
One of the accomplishments that I'm very proud of on the West Side is I built with the Bobby E. Wright Community Mental Health Center the two first buildings of their kind ever. Independent living for the developmentally disabled and the chronically mentally ill. And when we talk about housing, we got to do better with our veterans, our homeless, and our seniors, because we're not building at the rate we should be to take care of them. I don't know why we have a kid who graduates out of the foster care system or ages out. I'd rather say graduates. And then they become homeless. And there's no parachute for them. They didn't do anything. But we didn't do anything either to help them.
You know, it cuts both ways. And once again, when you think about the homeless people, you also have people who were forced out of medical centers, people who were forced out of institutions where they needed help.
Cutting
they can't get the medications. Right.
And that's why I'm so proud of the buildings for Bobby Wright, because especially when you're talking about the chronically mentally ill, who need supportive services, and the developmentally disabled, who we know are going to always need help, we can't turn our backs on them and act like they don't exist, because they do. Whether they're in your family or they're just on the street, they exist, and they need a chance too.
Why, over the years, especially in the Black community, that we would and continue really, even though we're getting more information about it, to ignore mental illness?
It was a good way for certain administrations in the past to gut and find money. It was very easy for them to lay it back on the states, as they typically do. And we're seeing that go again now with the Trump organization. I won't even call it the presidency, but the Trump organization.
Mm-hmm.
What they've done is systematically find a way to take every dollar that takes care of every needy person and put it back in their pockets in a tax cut. Right down to people who've worked jobs for years. And we see cases like what's happened in Texas this week and the tragedy with the flooding down there, only to find out that we have a president who signed an emergency order for help from FEMA, except he took all the money from FEMA. They can't do anything for anybody. And the National Weather Service couldn't have done any better because they let everyone go. There was no one to make the calls and sound the alarm. That's the lesson from this. Yes. When you let people come in and run roughshod and you're not that connected, you will be that disconnected.
Yeah, 47 has done a masterful job of getting rid of people. For example, in his first term in office, when he would talk to the military, you know, the 4- and 5-star generals, they were the guardrails to protect us from him. And you know what happened when he got elected? What did he get rid of? Those generals. He got rid of them completely. And of course, put people in there who had no experience, because he needs people around him. and just doing a detriment to us as citizens in this country.
It's deconstructing America and everything it stands for. But more than him deconstructing America, I'm concerned he's deconstructing the communities.
Yes.
Because he's throwing it all back on the states. He's throwing it all back on the cities and not giving any resources to handle it. He's taking what little funding we've had. I mean, I don't understand why anyone would consciously get rid of the Department of Education, because all they see it is as a collection agency for student loans.
Right.
I don't understand that.
I mean, and my background is history, and I was having my history from education. My mom was a principal. My uncle Robert, who just recently passed this year, he was a principal. It's all in our family. My daughter was thinking about teaching nursing at one point. My oldest had thought about that as well. At least they're thinking about it. So nothing wrong with thinking about it. In fact, my sister Tiffany, who also went to Kenwood, is a current teacher. So as like you had before in your family, got that family legacy. I feel that where you're coming from, and again, it's to serve. And
You
so
can't
when you
back out of it.
well, you
It's
can
in
try.
you.
You can try it.
There you
I
go.
don't think you succeed.
There you go.
Right. My guest is Eric France. He is running for the Democratic. He is a Democratic candidate for the Illinois 2nd Congressional District. You want to call in for any questions or comments, 312-597-2106. Again, 312-597-2106. Or continue leave comments and questions here in the comment section, what I call the peanut gallery as well. So make sure you do that. Get connected. So, Eric, you made the announcement of being a part of the Democratic ticket once again for the Illinois 2nd Congressional District. How did you heed this call?
Well, let's be clear on something. I've been watching this for a while. I was the first candidate in the race. This is not a situation for me where I've got a great position now and I see an opening and I'm trying to level up. I've been training for this job my entire life.
Gotcha.
Now someone's got to do the job. I'm not someone who's a career politician who says, "Ooh, here's an opening. It's a great chance for me to move up, get a little bit more stature." I'm 58 years old. I don't have to take this on at this point in life. So it's about service. It's about helping people. It's about making a difference and leaving something behind that my kids and my grandkids can be proud of.
When did you know it was time?
Well, as I said, people have been in my ear now for a number of years. And I think once we got our girls up and running and on their own, we have 3 children between the 2 of us and a grandchild. We said, okay, the girls are all set. It's less disruptive to their lives. This is something we can do. We made this decision as a family because I understand how it affects them too. Between my time and my energy and what I can get into and what I can't. At the point that I knew I could be all in and not be distracted, that's when I knew it was time.
Let's see. Go back to the comment section. Let's see who we have here. Lady we know so well, Diane Hawkins. How you doing, Diane? Another Bronco. Thank you for being here as well. The question to Eric. Eric, if you win, what will you do on day one?
Day one, that's a difficult one. The first thing that I'll do is lobby to reverse everything in the big, beautiful bill. The second thing I'll do is try to put in place real policy. And the third most important thing that I will do is pick up the work that John Lewis left off with, which was lobbying to take the Voters' Rights Act of 1964 and stop making it a renewable act and turn it into a law so we don't have to keep asking to vote. Because in climates like what we have right now with 47, we could be permanently disenfranchised.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is serious. This is no joke. I mean, this is not something to be playing around with. I said before, you keep your hand in the sand all you want to and be ostracized, quote unquote, but you better be knowing your surroundings because this is coming, and it's coming right now. We're in the thick of it.
Yeah. It's right in your face. I
Yes.
mean, being real, they put out a playbook. They told us what they're going to do. They're doing what they said they were going to do.
Hmm.
So the question is, what are we going to do? Who's going to stand up and fight for what we need? Who's going to make sure that the jobs that we don't have in the second district come back to the second district? Who's going to make sure that we have the right path for kids in school? Our kids deserve better than this. They're graduating from high school and college or whatever programs with no hope and nowhere to go.
Right.
We owe them more than that. We've managed to take vocational training out of the high schools. We need to bring it back.
Yes.
There's no reason why it should be gone other than the fact that it allows a lot of people to be self-sufficient and entrepreneurs, whatever the trade is that they're going into. College is not for everyone, but for those who it should be for, they shouldn't have to take out a lease on life to get through it and have a debt hanging over their head that they can never pay back.
Absolutely amazing. Politico had an article recently. It says former Representative Jesse Jackson Jr. is quietly exploring a comeback in, of course, what you're just going through right now, the Illinois 2nd Congressional District, after more than a decade out of office, including a 2-year prison term. Your thoughts on that, please?
My thoughts on it?
Yes, sir.
We got a felon in the White House.
We have a what in the White House?
We have a felon in the White House.
Okay.
So I can't say what's motivating Junior, what's not motivating. It's going to be a very crowded race. Everybody has the right to run.
True.
I don't know what his motivation is for thinking that right now is the best time to come back. And we'll have to wait to hear more from him to come.
The landscape of politics as through your lens, and once again, heeding the call to run again for the 2nd Congressional District here in the state of Illinois, you look at the landscape again of 47 and the nation and what it is, this whole thing about being a dictator, this whole thing about he broke up with his manhood or love of man of Elon Musk and things like that. And again, hiring these people who are ill-equipped. You mentioned before about Department of Education. Linda McMahon, who is Vince McMahon's wife, has no experience, no decision to be there whatsoever. But she got appointed because, again, I think through 47's lenses, this is all a reality show to him. He's not set in reality because all he wants to do is stay in the news cycle. I'll just say, before I give you the question again, as someone who's been covering this going on 30 years, I've never in my life seen a news cycle where every 10 to 15 minutes this man's name is brought up. And to me, it's just overkill. So from your perspective of serving people and now heeding the call to run for office, what do you see?
What I see is we give him more credit by mentioning his name every day than what he deserves. He's going to do what he's going to do, but what are we doing at home? Do we have a story about where we're lacking or just stories on how many people got shot today? I need to hear from leaders who are standing for what they've done at home to make things better and what they're lobbying for. Look, this isn't an easy task. We don't control either house, but I think what we both believe is that we want to step across the aisle and work with each other and get better for everyone. There's a lot of these legislators, no matter which side of the aisle that they sit on, there's going to be a lot of changes in the midterms. There really will be. Bottom line, people are hurting. Yes. People need to hear a way out of it. They don't need to hear about that mess. Because if we do what we're supposed to do at home, Washington really won't matter that much at all. We need to bring back the resources and the services. That's the conversation that we should be having. Everyone's talking about it was a horrible bill, but no one's talked about what we need to save or how it's hurting them at home. We need to be making statements on that every 5 minutes.
Right.
Literally. If you're not talking about it and talking about how we got to this point, then we have a problem.
What was your take on the whole thing, for example, as you running as a Democrat, it seems the Democratic Party is lacking leadership, and it seems as though that they're rugged individualists. Once again, I said before in the post-game, well, pregame, I was talking to you before we started the show. Jasmine Crockett out of Texas. I love her energy, love her spirit. We need that type of fight back because I believe we should not have the other side of the aisle put their proverbial verbal knee in our necks as Democrats. But I think, again, we need to fight. So when you look at the landscape from the standpoint of leadership or lack thereof, you can go to various people, Hakeem Jeffries and AOC out of New York and people like that. But it seems though it's kind of small.
It is. And I think we have to look at the leadership that's come before and set the example.
Mm-hmm.
What are we there for and what are we doing? What is our game plan? I can tell you for myself, you won't see me in this job for more than 10 years. Whether I'm going on to become a senator or the president, which I doubt very seriously because it's not what my want is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Although it may change 10 years from now. I don't know.
Never know, right.
But part of my job right now is to train up who's coming behind to carry on and move the agenda forward. Not that the agenda dies because I die or because I retire.
Right.
We need to be training capable leaders who are great with messaging, putting together the types of staff that can handle these things. We shouldn't be left alone because now someone got defeated and there's no one to backfill. And that the pool is so small and so disengaged that we're just left out here with no message, no party leadership, no leadership even in the House or the Senate based on what's left and who's there. I shouldn't be there at 80 years old telling people who are 20 years old what their retirement is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Hello, Kim Brooks. Kim Brooks says, well said, Eric France.
Thank you.
You mentioned, Eric, about pulling resources in our own communities and trying to build that back. If I'm hearing your message correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, that outside of what the government is going to do, because before he's going to do what he's going to do, he said on day one he's doing it. So we should turn inward amongst ourselves and build ourselves back up and try to get that connect that we used to have.
Chris, we have no choice. Do you see the life raft coming down the river to save you?
No.
I don't either.
No.
So unless somebody goes in there and is uber focused on what the people in the district need and bring it to the district by any means necessary, we're not going to have it. But if our singular focus is doing rebutts and rebukes to Donald Trump every day, we're falling for the distraction. I haven't seen anybody's Head Start plan.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying I haven't seen anybody's Head Start plan. I haven't seen anybody's
neither.
vocational education plan. I haven't seen anybody's plan for housing for those who can't afford housing.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen anything on anything coming out of Washington right now.
I was saying, when you talk about that, Eric, you remind me when I was a child, when I mentioned before on this program, I love magic. And the first rule of magic is to create a plausible diversion to the audience. And this is what we're seeing right now, a plausible diversion. So we need to understand the magic trick and unveil the fact that we need to start our own thing and not fall for the okie doke.
While they're waving us over here saying, look here, they're taking everything out the back door.
Right.
But we're looking over here. We're not looking at what's leaving.
We got to keep our eyes on the prize.
Watch this hand. Never mind this one.
Right, exactly. Yep, and that's the rule of thumb of magic. That's exactly it. One thing again, a Democratic candidate for the Illinois 2nd Congressional District. Somebody's watching this and checking you out. Why should they take time to vote for you?
Let me say it like this. I don't need to run on my record. My record speaks for itself. I have lived behinds in the community that I've been attached to for years and continue to do. But what I'd ask of you is to look at what other people have left behind or what they've really done. I hear things about we've got a zero cash bond, bail bond situation now in Illinois, and that was great legislation. And what my mind takes me to is, so we're concerned about people not having to pay to get out of jail. Shouldn't we be concerned with people not having to go to jail and be creating other opportunities so that they don't have to take on such? My wish for you is to not need a bond, to create some new opportunities for you so that you don't have to knock someone over the head or break into something or do something that you shouldn't be doing. I ought to have some other options and opportunities for you. What are they doing to build those? Same thing with housing. I don't want to hear about homelessness and not see a plan and say, oh, we need to build another shelter. No, we need to build another house. We got to have compassion when it comes to the homeless and the underserved on every level. I don't want to hear another time about someone going broke because they got sick and they've lost their pension and their health care now because it's disappeared from Washington and they're getting no help. And they die on the way to the hospital because the nearest hospital is too far because the hospitals can't afford to stay open because there's no Medicare and Medicaid payments going to them anymore, and that's the bulk of their population. So now they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Linwood, Illinois, in a part of the district that is a butt to Indiana. Where is the nearest hospital to me? If an ambulance comes to take me to one, I'm going over the border to Indiana.
Right.
Why do I have to leave Illinois to get proper treatment? These are the things that we ought to be concerned about. Why are former Ford workers are now subject to being laid off every other week for what little production they have left, and we can't give them jobs or retraining in other industries? These are the things we got to look at. These are the things that take care of home. What are we doing to attract new business and development to these areas? What are we doing to upgrade farmers in central Illinois to have some diversity in their portfolio and not just be dependent on government assistance farming, but to have viable farm businesses? What are we doing to help them? Who's listening, asking, or even talking to them? It should be more than just a farm subsidy that went away. There needs to be a holistic plan for farmers in the future.
I was checking out your bio. I was checking out your bio when I was reading it. The one word that I don't hear amongst politicians was interesting is the word compassion. And I was reading it, and it was the part about addressing homelessness with compassion and solutions. See, that right there caught my eye because, again, you don't hear the word compassion or solution when it comes to these politicians because they don't want it. It's like it goes back to what Malcolm X said. So Malcolm X was saying about if someone stabbed you in the back with a 7-inch knife, if the knife is pulled out, say about 2 or 3 inches, that doesn't, of course, solution, and that's not going to help the solution. If you take it out all the way, it's not going to help. You need to heal the wound. So you have all these ideas, but like you said about having solutions, these people don't want to heal the wound.
They need to be there every day, not just at the funeral.
Right.
Not just when it looks like there's been a fire and people are burned out. Not just at the worst times. They need to be compassionate about the people of the district all the time and be listening and working for solutions for them every day. It's not a part-time job. We should always be connected to the people. We shouldn't have gotten this disconnected.
Right.
I've talked to people over the state who don't even understand the system, which tells me no one's talking to them. I don't know what the district people are doing. I don't know how people are coordinating with mayors and county commissioners and state representatives and senators. I don't know that we have that type of connection for these folks. I went to one community meeting in South Shore, actually, and people were yelling about me and saying, well, what are you going to do about such and such? When they really didn't know it was the alderman's job in their territory.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is people need to be better connected. We need to sit down and educate people and be there to help them, not just to put them off or put them aside and look for the easy way out. We need comprehensive service plans. We haven't had those in this state effectively for many years.
Mm-hmm.
We need to bring that back. People know that when they pick up the phone and call for service, they can actually get some, whatever their problem is.
I see what you're saying, and it's a good thought, and it's great. And the thing about it is, because I think people are tired of being a statistic when it comes to voting. All they want, some politicians, all they want is to vote. Then they disappear, and they have constituencies, who still hang on, and then they go on and become fat cats and have special interest groups and everything else, and you forget about the people. The only time they're concerned is when they had to be reelected. So the plan I'm listening to you, Eric, is like, it's not just a vote; it's an investment.
It's an investment in your own self and your own community. If I do a great job, the community's not going to be the only one that benefits. I'm going to benefit too by bringing jobs and industry and economic development. My taxes are going to be lower. If you live in the Southland, we have some of the highest taxes in the state as property owners. That's a fact. Right. But one of the reasons why is homeowners get taxed at 10%, while businesses get taxed at 25%. There's a hole in the ground where Lincoln Mall used to be. There's a mall called River Oaks that has a food court with no food and no stores.
Right.
When this is what you're seeing being developed, this is where you end up. This is what you have. Where is the plan that turns that? We can't say we're waiting for the new Dollar Tree. We can't say we're waiting for the new Target. What we know is the world as we used to know it has changed.
Yes.
Those stores are not coming back in those numbers, not in the way that they were there. We need to look at live, work, play communities where people can have the city in the suburbs or the city in the city even, where we build the right things for the right areas that are going to attract people, that are going to be able to fill these new jobs. They'll attract companies. Right now, we don't have a lot to offer a company.
And it doesn't make any sense because, again, we go back to staying in your own community if the community was worth staying in. If you're able to, of course, like I said before, resources and build it back up and have more self-sufficiency, that changed the game. Because like you said before, those days are long gone. So what do we do right now for the here and now and for the future? And so listening to you, it goes back to the word investment. Like I said, it goes back to I think more knowledge of self and more knowledge of your surroundings if you're willing to put in the hard work.
Well, you mentioned Jesse Jackson Jr. earlier. One of the best things he came up with when he was in office, and that's been almost 15, 20 years ago now, was a third airport. We're still talking about a third airport.
Okay.
But if we actually had a third airport, that would bring jobs, development, businesses, passengers, airlines, relief of air traffic at O'Hare and Midway. It would expand our economy. It would expand our presence on the world stage. We'd be able to do more. We'd be able to host more. We are sitting at the center of a quad state area. If you look at that interstate system, it connects Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Butley, Michigan. But we don't have an airport that could support cargo being dropped in and out right there. We've got all these trucking depots and logistical locations for people like FedEx and UPS. But the only other airport that we have that they don't even consider a third airport is Rockford. But Rockford's too far to service this end.
Right.
We got to be more creative. We got to push these things through. I know there are people in the state legislature who are frustrated because they can't get it done alone. They need help in Washington getting it done. We have a whole Department of Transportation that would allow for that.
Right.
That we can draw on. But guess what? We got to have a coordinated plan. We got to work with our officials locally, statewide, and federally. They got to come together to work through these plans. One of the biggest jobs, in my opinion, of a congressman is we have to coordinate these resources. And that goes back to our listening, not just saying, here's what I'm going to do. We got to go there and pull everybody in the room and pull it all together and say, all right, this is your part, this is your part, and I'm going to go to Washington and fight for that money for the transportation project or the infrastructure or the health care. whatever it is, we need to bring everything together. We need to have more public-private partnerships when it comes to getting these things done.
Mhm. Let's see. At the comment section, Sick types, one of the biggest problems regarding a city/community is the fight of capital. When those who can invest are deterred from doing so, everybody comes up short.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's because everybody's a free agent. There's no coordination of effort. We should have someone bringing it to the table and bringing that private industry to the table to work with us, to lobby to make it be better. We should be building a third airport with an anchor in mind and know who it is there, and say that this is a cargo airport first and a passenger airport second. How many jobs does that bring?
You know, you mentioned about the third airport. You know, it's funny. I had this conversation with a friend of mine for a while back. So, of course, with the Chicago Bears moving to Arlington Heights and getting out of Soldier Field,
Mhm.
we were talking about this. It's like, wouldn't it be interesting had they moved to South Shore? Had they moved to that area, for example, it would have been glorious. I mean, I know they're afraid of brown and black people and everything else. I get all that. But, man, think about all the dollars that would have went into if they would have made a field on that land, and it's still accessible when you talk about buses and, of course, Ubers and Lyfts and stuff like that. It would have been fantastic. But those were just dreams. But going back, it kind of parallels to the whole third airport thing. If you're not into getting back to the community and putting in, once again, jobs and the effort to the fact of it can literally change people's lives, you should invest into it. But that's if you're involved in the life-changing business.
Well, here's the fact. What we know is, especially with cargo and goods and versus services, the cargo, as we learned during COVID, the cargo's got to move no matter what.
Correct.
There's not a business that's going to go away. So if we reset our transportation hub to help service such, those jobs will come and they will not leave. We're not going to run out of gasoline and no longer build a gas car. These things got to move. It's plain and simple, but you got to have a comprehensive plan and some collective work amongst individuals to make it happen.
One of the things in your plan, you mentioned about quality education. Could you elaborate on that, please?
That's the hot button of everywhere. Well, number one, as we talked about, the disappearing of the Department of Education.
Correct.
I don't even need to get into that, but we can't assume that everybody's going to make their own rules. We can't assume that everybody's going to fund every program. But what we do know is every kid that ought to want to go to college ought to be able to go to college. If they're qualified, then they should go and not worry about going broke by doing so. I talked to some youth not too long ago and asked why they didn't stay in school. And their words were, I couldn't afford to. And I was watching my other friends who didn't go, and they all had jobs making 5 and 6 figures and didn't invest anything. I'm already $100,000 in debt with no hope on the horizon of getting out.
Right.
We got to start thinking of it backwards. Start at the college or the vocation and work your way backwards. So what's the plan? Clearly, we got to give kids basic skills. I don't know why anybody thought it was a good idea to cut pre-K and Head Start. Anybody got an argument for saving money for not educating your kids at the most critical point?
Right.
So we're just accepting our kids are going to start off behind and hope that they can magically catch up.
I mean, this ain't Lucky Charms. This ain't magically delicious. I mean, you got you got to be real about this.
It's basic, and somebody's got to ask the tough questions rather than argue the silly fights.
But see, that's easy to do, to argue the silly fights, because the thing about it, as you know firsthand, Eric, is the fact that it doesn't take that much to be stupid, because it requires no thought process, and somebody can lead you literally to slaughter without you thinking, hey, wait a minute, that's fire. I could be burned. You just go along with it and not even thinking about it. But it takes a person of intelligence to be strict-minded into what he or she wants to accomplish. And I think at times we get caught up in the first, not the latter part.
Absolutely. And let me say this about education.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joe Biden was doing a great thing when he was forgiving all these loans.
Yes.
I'm sorry that it got blocked because these people, whoever didn't, I paid mine. But you shouldn't be in that position where you even got to make a choice.
Right.
You shouldn't spend the first 10 years out of college paying for the education you got and then struggling to get by because it's taking money out of your pocket and your credit portfolio for you not to be able to build your own generational wealth and be able to buy a home. Because they're hanging you getting educated over your head and say, you owe this student loan. We can't lend you money for a house.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that help our economy? How does that help stabilize it?
Not at all. It stays stagnant.
I
It
don't
stays
want to
stagnant.
build a nation of perpetual renters. Home ownership is the American dream. Okay, I get it. So we need to act like it.
Right. I agree. Safer communities. Could you elaborate on that one as well?
Sure. I mean, you mentioned mental health care earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's key to safer communities. It's very key. You have to have mental health care brought back to people and give them the services that they need, because a lot of these things are people who've had breakdowns and become erratic and have no place to go. So a lot of the calls that these offices are making and putting themselves in dangerous situations because they're really responding to a domestic situation or a healthcare breakdown. We've seen in recent years on TV, unfortunately, people who called 911 and say, please don't go over and do that with my daughter. She's having a mental breakdown.
Good.
Whatever
Right.
you do, don't shoot her.
Right.
And how does it end up?
Get shot.
We need more opportunities for kids and adults so that they don't have to commit crimes. Not to say that anybody has to, but let's
Right.
give them some options up front that may want to make them deter having to do that. Maybe even affordable education. Who knows? I mean, give them something to lose and maybe they won't.
Good point. That's a good point. And again, self-investment. But again, like you said before, I mean, some people need a push. And some people might not even know that they're lost, that they need help and assistance. And that takes a form of pride to say, you know what, depending on what I'm going through right now, I need help. Does it make me bad? Does it make me weak? I just need help. And so listening to you, Eric, go through your points, people are here struggling. They're in pain. And they do need
Very
assistance, they need help. So they do not need to waste a vote on people who's going to take it and run with it and don't hear from them until next election day. They need somebody who's going to be all the way in.
That's right. That's what it is. You have to be fully engaged at all times. You have to be out there and letting the people know that I'm here for you. I'm not here for me.
Right.
I'm here fighting for you. The benefit of me is I live in the community too.
Mm-hmm.
I ought to be able to fight for you like I'm fighting for myself, because I am. That's the bottom line to it.
And the bottom line was said. This has been more than enlightening, Eric. Eric France, thank you so much. I'll get you out on one question. Once again, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris, for having me.
Oh, absolutely. If you could invite 4 people to dinner, alive or not, who would they be and why?
Well, number one on the list would be God. Got a lot of questions for him.
Mm-hmm.
Got a whole lot of questions for him.
Yes.
Number 2, I'd like to have my father back. You never can plan death of a parent, and you have all the questions you wish you would have asked before they were gone, especially now running for office. Number 3, I'd like to talk to Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela did some great things that we'll probably never know the fullest extent of without having a one-on-one conversation. And if I had to pick a 4th, that one's pretty rough. But I would say Probably somebody in the entertainment industry who was gone too soon, just to have a lighter mode and hear their stories. Maybe Richard Pryor, I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone who can make us all laugh.
And we definitely need it. Definitely need a timeout for that. Eric France, again, thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you.
CBI. This has been more than enlightening and more than an insight. And anytime, I don't mean this is Hollywood talk. I don't believe Hollywood talk. If you want to come back and talk about anything that you says on your mind, I hope you didn't get an argument with your wife. You need to come in here and vent. You want to bring the grandbabies. That's cool too. You have an open invitation. This has been so
We're
much.
going to do that for certain. For certain. We look forward to the return invite.
Absolutely. More information about you, Eric France. Where can people find you at, sir?
www.franceforcongress.com. FOR, not the number 4. We're on all social media. Look us up, Citizens for Eric France or France for Congress. You will find on every platform from Blue Sky to X to YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, but most importantly, fights like this aren't cheap. We need your help. We need your help to make this happen. Campaigns need financing. Go to actblue.com. Even the smallest contribution helps, whether it's $5 or $10. Consider making a recurring contribution if you can. We're trying to make it to the end, and we need your help.
Eric, thank you so much. Good luck on the campaign trail. I hope to talk to you very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Thanks again so much. Bye. Very enlightening. Thank you. Eric France. He is running as a second, going for the Democratic candidate for Illinois in the 2nd Congressional District. I wish him the very best. And just listening to him, the enlightenment, what he's giving gives us hope. Because the stand, like I said before, I'll share this with you, will great company. The fact that you use the word compassion, and once again, becoming politics 30 years, I've never, ever heard anybody, or as we often say, antibody, get into politics or in the political landscape who use the word compassion. That alone, I am intrigued. You should be intrigued too. Thank you for taking the time out to do this, to be a part of CBI. As we continue on, of course, on Fridays, it's Baseline. Same time, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Always wanting you to be well where you are. It takes time to let somebody know that you appreciate them. And I dare even say let somebody know that you love them. Continue to be safe. Continue to be sound. Continue to be healthy. And most importantly, above anything else, continue to be loved. Long live the peace. Long live the funk. More power to you. As always, imparting with all of you, my friends. Please do this. Keep your head up.